Jang Himchun, your average mid-tier guy, seems trapped in the so-called matrix of life. Like many others, Jang went to university, only to realize later that it was a waste of time, as his dream of becoming a civil servant didn't pan out. Equipped with the typical fresh graduate starter pack, he struggled to secure a civil service job. Left with no other options, he decided to work as a private tutor, hoping it might offer a way out of his situation. However, reality hit hard. Teaching was far from easy, and his subpar performance often earned him scoldings from his boss. It became evident that Jang was not doing well at all. Now, Jang desperately needs to attract more clients, otherwise his job may be at risk. While walking, thirsty and disheartened, he stumbled upon a cafe located beneath a luxury apartment building. He stepped inside and ordered an iced Americano, only for the cashier to ask if he was a resident of the building. Completely baffled, Jang, who is pretty much broke, had no clue what was going on. The cashier clarified that the cafe exclusively served the apartment's residents and shouldn't have sold to outsiders. Undeterred, Jang still tried to make the purchase, pulling out his credit card as though this cafe was his last hope. But the cashier firmly declined, directing him to a nearby store instead. Defeated and on the verge of tears over his inability to even buy a simple iced Americano, Jang's day took an unexpected turn. A woman suddenly approached him and asked if his name was Jang. It turned out she was Purum, his former high school classmate. Purum was overjoyed to see Jang and wasted no time in hugging him tightly. Jang, completely taken aback, wore an expression that suggested this might only be the second hug of his life, the first likely being from his mom. For a brief moment, Jang felt like a top G individual, sneaking a quick glance at Purum's figure before they resumed their conversation. Purum asked how Jang was doing and whether he lived in the area. Jang replied that he lived in the neighboring area, only for Purum to name an upscale apartment complex that Jang, in his financial state, couldn't even dream of. He quickly denied living there. Purum, catching on to the situation, reassured him that it didn't matter and expressed her happiness at meeting him again. Noticing Jang's bag full of papers, Purum guessed he was working as a home tutor. Coincidentally, she was meeting some parents at the cafe and offered to introduce him to them, potentially connecting him with new clients. Without waiting for his response, Purum grabbed Jang's hand and led him to a table surrounded by moms. As they reached the table, Jang greeted the moms politely. The moms, however, seemed intrigued by his presence, with one even commenting on how handsome Jang was. Purum introduced Jang to the two women, Jumi and Mii, and he immediately launched into a confident explanation of his teaching services. By the end of his pitch, both moms were eager to hire him as a tutor, though it was unclear whether it was for their kids or the moms. Jang, thrilled to have secured new clients, left the cafe with Purum. They chatted on their way out, and Jang eventually learned that Purum was married. She asked if he was as well, to which Jang, true to his mid-tier status, admitted he wasn't. Purum teased him, suggesting he must be popular. Purum then said that she will let Jang be on his way and told Jang that they should meet later sometime. Jang agrees while looking at Purum, shaking her peaches as she walks away. Fast forward to Jumi's house, where Jang had an appointment scheduled with her. Out of nowhere, her son suddenly appeared behind her, channeling his inner Shia from the Karate Kid, and delivered a swift kick to her legs, something Jackie Chan would be proud of. Annoyed, Jumi scolded her 4 out of 10 son and sent him off to his room. Unfortunately, her yelling startled her baby, who immediately burst into tears. At this point, it became clear that Jumi had 2 kids. However, aside from juggling motherhood, Jumi also got some huge melons and peaches. But to be fair, Jumi's life isn't as nice as her proportions. Jang soon discovered that Jumi was left to raise her 2 children on her own, since her husband worked far from home to provide additional income. This left Jumi feeling quite lonely. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Jang had finally arrived. Jumi welcomed him warmly and introduced him to her son, Seo-woo. But because her son is still a bronze in Valorant, he only wants to go back to grind his rank, so Jumi had to scold her son. At that moment, Jang switched to full Chad mode and calmly told Jumi to relax, assuring her that he could handle it. Understanding, Jumi stepped aside and left the room. As she walked away, Jang looked at Jumi and experienced two giant globes crashing into each other as she walked at this rate. Jang was highly enthusiastic about teaching Seo-woo, understandably so after being away for a while. Meanwhile, Jumi went to prepare some fruits for him. When she returned, she saw Jang handling the lesson exceptionally well. She approached him and encouraged him to have some of the fruits while he worked. However, it's unclear which fruit she was referring to, and Jang seemed to pay little attention to the plate she brought, likely distracted by something else entirely. Jumi then moved to attend to her baby, who began crying. It was feeding time. She went ahead and pulled out one of her calcium cannons to feed her baby, but suddenly felt her other cannon being stuffy, ready to shoot. So she also had to take the other one out. Now both of Jumi's fun bags were left out wild and free in the living room. Apparently, she got too comfortable and fell asleep while feeding her baby, and just as she fell asleep. At that very moment, Jang told Seo-woo that he needed to use the bathroom. I'm telling you, this man's timing is crazy. When Jang opened the door, he froze in surprise with what he was seeing. Jumi was fast asleep, with her cannons on the front gates on full display. Instead of quickly shutting the door, Jang, as a man of cultured taste, took some time to appreciate the details of those calcium cannons before closing the door. Jang finally shut the door, still reeling from what he had just witnessed. As he stood there, trying to process the situation, things took an even more awkward turn. His personal clock went from 6 to 12 in no time. Meanwhile, Jumi woke up from her unexpected nap and immediately realized how careless she'd been, leaving her bazookas out in the living room like that. A wave of worry hit her. What if Jang had seen her like this? Not long after, Jang stepped out of the room, casually mentioning that Seo-woo had done a great job during the session. The lesson had come to an end, and both of them exchanged thanks. Jumi expressed her gratitude, saying Jang's presence allowed her to get some much-needed rest. Jang reassured her not to worry and promised to keep doing his best before leaving the house. As he walked away, Jang couldn't help but feel relieved that Jumi didn't realize what he had seen. However, his inner thoughts took a darker turn. Jealousy toward Jumi's husband crept in, as he couldn't stop wishing he were the one enjoying those calcium cannons. Shaking off those wild thoughts, Jang eventually made it to his next client, Mii. Mii opened the door, greeting Jang in her workout attire with some milk jugs. Jang couldn't help but wonder why she was dressed so revealingly. Mii casually asked him to wait in the living room, mentioning that her son would be out shortly, as she had been filming just moments earlier. She then resumed her workout right in front of Jang. Caught off guard, Jang froze for a moment, his mind racing as he felt he had seen her before, perhaps in a dream. Then it hit him. Mii was none other than Gym Mom. As it turns out, Mii is a popular influencer with some huge mommy milkers and planets, known for her fit and healthy physique, boasting 1.2 million followers. She got famous for her fitness content and striking figure, and was married to Yoo Kang-ho, a renowned football star. Suddenly, Mii approached Jang with her son. The boy greeted Jang politely, to which Jang responded, "Let's take care of each other in the future." I don't know what kind of future he's talking about, but sure. Mii then shows our boy her twin planets and told Jang she was going to continue her workout session. Jang stayed focused on teaching the purple-haired boy. But a few minutes later, Mii came back into the room and asked if she could sit with them. Naturally, Jang agreed, since my man seems like he was ready to slide into her DMS anyway. As Mii joined them, she leaned forward and suddenly puts her gigantic cannons on the table. At this point, Jang struggled to maintain his composure. He was having a difficult time to focus on teaching and to prevent his pork sword from sticking up high. Determined to stay professional, he forced himself to concentrate on teaching only. I can't imagine the pain that this guy is going through. After some time of keeping his inner demon from coming out, the lesson finally came to an end. Mii complimented Jang on his teaching skills, but she is acting a little sus, like pushing her fun bags. As her son left, Jang remarked that the boy was very smart, but Mii stayed silent and didn't leave the room. Now alone, an awkward silence hung between them. Jang, unable to resist, found his gaze drifting toward her calcium cannons and took some time to appreciate it, but soon he snaps back to reality. In an attempt to break the tension, he admitted that he recognized her and even followed her online. He added that it was an honor to meet her in person. Mii, however, acts real flirty and bends forward to our boy Jang. Nervously, Jang tried to shift the subject, mentioning that he was also a fan of her husband, a clumsy move that only added to the tension. Mii finally broke the silence, confessing that she liked him. Jang was stunned, briefly imagining he'd managed to impress a popular model. However, reality hit when she clarified that she liked his personality. Embarrassed, Jang awkwardly replied that he was looking forward to working with her. Despite her composed demeanor, Mii seemed to feel some weird energy after meeting Jang. So she decided to text her husband, but Mii was actually craving for energy of a young man, a desire that only one person in the room could satisfy. It's our boy Jang. After Mii sends the message to Kang-ho, meanwhile, the Chad himself stood confidently on the football field, exuding his usual aura of dominance. Out of nowhere, a young 20-year-old girl approached him, shyly asking for his autograph. Judging by the look on his face, it was clear that this encounter was about to take a turn, and not in the way anyone might expect. The footballer signed the paper and casually complimented the young girl, calling her pretty. But after handing back the autograph, he suddenly suggested they do some cardio. At this point, it became clear that Mii's husband wasn't exactly loyal, and some things are definitely about to go down with our boy Jang pretty soon. After finishing the lesson with Mii's son, Jang decided to come to a nearby playground. As he tried to relax, he noticed a group of students smoking nearby. Given that Jang was used to being around much younger kids, the sight of teens smoking caught him off guard. Shocked, he froze, giving them an awkward, NPC stare that probably made him look a little creepy. One of the students notices Jang and their eyes met. She looks mad and was about to approach our boy. She eventually starts approaching Jang. My man Jang here turned from alpha to beta real quick and tries to look away in the other direction, hoping the approaching girl wouldn't notice. Unfortunately for him, that tactic didn't work. Sweating nervously, it was clear my man was having PTSD from a girl approaching. This guy is down bad. Finally, the girl with real huge Liberty Bells arrives in front of Jang and asked him what's the matter. At this rate, my boy Jang didn't even have time to check for the details of those bells. He was sweating, and now an official bottom G. He stammered out that he was just chilling and didn't mean anything by it. The girl, unimpressed, smirked and said he looked like a typical baby boomer wanting to scold her for smoking, and the staring that Jang did was harassment. Jang, now drenched in sweat, mustered all the strength he could and said sorry. The girl looked down upon our boy and called him a wimp as she walks away. One of her friends then told her she didn't need to bully our boy like that, but it seems like to her, my boy deserved what she did, and it was fun for her. This girl ain't playing no games. Anyways, although Jang got trash talked on, he still thinks he worked hard and it was a productive day for him. The next day, Jumi was relaxing at home, watching some interesting films with her baby, while Jang was busy teaching her son. After finishing the session, as Jang was about to leave, he noticed a light bulb in Jumi's room flickering. Feeling a sudden urge to channel his inner Bob the Builder, he offered to fix it. Jumi politely told him it wasn't necessary, but Jang insisted, determined to save the day. As he worked on the bulb, Jumi kept telling him to be careful. When Jang glanced down to reassure her, he was immediately greeted with a view of Jumi looking up, her milk jugs prominently in sight. Being the cultured individual that he is, Jang couldn't help but lose focus and started thinking about dirty stuffs looking at Jumi. Typical mid-man behavior, right? Suddenly, the situation escalated. Jang's pork sword betrayed him, visibly summoned in front of Jumi. Panicking, he lost his balance and fell off the ladder. However, in true protagonist fashion, he managed a superhero landing, catching Jumi just in time before hitting the ground. Awkwardly flustered, Jumi quickly darted away, leaving Jang standing there like an NPC. Gathering his composure, Jang announced that he would leave now. Just as he was stepping out, Jumi returned and asked to increase the number of her son's classes. From that day on, Jang started visiting Jumi's house 3 times a week. After wrapping up his lessons there, Jang would head over to Mii's house for another session. While Jang was teaching Mihee's son, Mihee appeared in the room wearing a rather interesting outfit and brought him some fruit to snack on while he taught. However, Jang couldn't care less about the fruit. He was too stunned by what she was wearing. When he asked about it, Mihee casually claimed it was her workout attire. But let's be real, she was definitely capping. After the session ended, Mihee asked Jang if he had a moment. She wanted his help with stretching, something most of us could only dream of assisting with. But hey, Jang got lucky. After a rather engaging stretching session, Mihee finally sent Jang on his way home. Back in Mihee's house, she is still trying to text her husband, but he is not answering because he was busy sieging the Wall of China. Mihee doesn't know that yet, and she was getting curious about what is happening to her husband. The next day, everything seemed normal during Jang's teaching session at Jumi's house. However, later that night, Jang thought that something was weird, since he felt like he was becoming his client's husband. But he snapped back and dismissed it as overthinking, deciding to focus on his work. Out of the blue, Jumi called him in the middle of the night. Surprised and confused, Jang picked up and asked what was wrong. It turned out Jumi's son had been hospitalized due to a fever, an overreaction, perhaps. But Jang didn't hesitate to help. He accompanied Jumi to bring her son back home and even helped tuck the boy into bed. After finishing, Jang said he would take his leave, but Jumi stopped him, inviting him to have a drink before he left. Naturally, Jang stayed. Who could resist? The two sat down and began talking, but the atmosphere shifted when Jumi suddenly started crying. Jang, being mid at handling emotional situations, panicked. Unsure of what to do, he awkwardly hugged her and reassured her that everything would be fine. However, things quickly spiraled. As Jumi leaned into him, still shaking, Jang's thoughts drifted away from the situation and toward her bazookas. Try as he might to regain focus, this time he failed. Giving in to temptation, Jang began inching closer. To his surprise, instead of pushing him away, Jumi went with the flow. At that moment, Jang's restraint snapped. He went full beast mode and starts attacking like there's no tomorrow. Mama Cow is being clapped hard. After the war, Jumi fell asleep. Jang gently carried her to bed, whispered a soft goodnight, and quietly left her house. The next morning, Jang woke up feeling victorious, still savoring the memory of last night's war. My man had gone all out, conquering those calcium cannons like a champ. But suddenly his phone buzzed with a message from Jumi, saying she is canceling all the classes. Jang was completely shocked that he dropped to the floor, stunned. His victorious glow was replaced by sheer disbelief as he tried to make sense of what just happened. That's all for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And please hit that subscribe button. It really helps keep us motivated to bring you more exciting manhwa content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.